Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and we have just seen one confirmation for this bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside the stage of the market that Ethereum is currently in based on these RSI trends. But we're also seeing some warning signals on smaller timeframes for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, which I'll be covering later in this video. So definitely stick around. First of all, just taking a quick look at the US stock market. This right here is the Nasdaq 100 index on the daily time frame. And obviously, as you can see, today was another bullish day after we've seen a small build-up in short-term bullish momentum in the stock market over the past couple days. So due to the stock market holding up relatively well over the past few days, this has actually helped out crypto prices over the past few days as well. And getting straight into the Bitcoin part of this video, this right here is the 3-day Bitcoin chart. And if you're looking at the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, obviously we've seen a bullish cross, as I've been talking about over the past couple of days, but only within the last 24 hours, we've just seen a 3-day candle close, which actually confirms this bullish cross in place. And now that we've finally seen that confirmed bullish cross in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, we can actually compare it to these other times where we saw a bullish cross in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And obviously, if you've been keeping up to date with my recent videos, I have already made this comparison over the past few days in preparation for this potential bullish cross. But in case you're new to the channel or you missed my recent videos over the past few days, a confirmed bullish cross in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, obviously, as the name suggests, is a bullish signal for the Bitcoin price. And usually this signal on this time frame plays out over the next 1 month approximately. Now, obviously, that is just a rough price range. It can differ from that, but that is just a general rule from what we've seen over the past 1 year in particular. And another important point to keep in mind when it comes to this bullish signal is that obviously during a larger bullish trend, these bullish signals are more explosive in the Bitcoin price. We see much more bullish price action on a bullish signal in a larger bullish trend compared to a bullish signal in a larger bearish trend. It still played out as a bullish signal in the first quarter of this year, but the price action wasn't as explosive to the upside as what we saw in the second half of last year, because once again, we're in that larger downtrend for the Bitcoin price, which is currently still active. Because whether or not you think that $17,500 low was actually the Bitcoin bottom, it's obvious that the Bitcoin price still hasn't confirmed a larger uptrend again, at least just yet, which means one of the most likely scenarios over the next 1 month approximately, according to this signal and according to the current trend, is for the Bitcoin price to potentially play out something similar to what we saw in the first quarter of this year, which is basically some slight bullish price action. Now, obviously, during a time period like that in the price of Bitcoin, we can experience a lot of short-term price fluctuations. But generally speaking, for the most part of the first quarter of this year, especially after we saw that bullish cross in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, the Bitcoin price itself was trending in the bullish direction for the next 1 to 1.5 months after that bullish signal. And that sort of time frame based on this indicator alone actually works out pretty well with a lot of other factors that are happening, such as the fact that there's no Fed meeting next month, no Fed meeting in August. Of course, we have a Fed meeting later this month, and the next Fed meeting after that takes place in September. And as for the release of new CPI data, that will continue coming out each month. But based on a lot of factors that we've already seen in the first half of July, such as oil coming down in value, it's already beginning to be expected that the next inflation result that we get next month, which will tell us the inflation of consumer prices in the US for this month, for July, it's expected that CPI inflation in the US will come in lower next month from what we saw recently. Now, obviously, that's only based on the first half of this month, and anything can happen on the second half of this month that could potentially make inflation worse. But for now, just based on what we've seen throughout July so far, the next inflation result that we'll get next month is already expected to be pretty good. And so when you combine that with the fact that there's no Fed meeting next month, which means there's no rate hike next month, that would potentially give the markets some more breathing room to the upside, because next month we're due to see less external factors like the Fed or CPI data applying downwards pressure on the market like what we've seen recently. But don't forget, there's still that Fed meeting happening later this month, which I'll be sure to keep you updated on in these videos. And if you're completely new to this channel and you have no idea what I'm talking about when I'm mentioning the Fed or CPI data, then I strongly recommend you watching a few of my most recent videos that I've posted over the past few days on this channel. But with that being said, zooming into the daily Bitcoin chart, and obviously, as you can see here, the Bitcoin price is still trading within this choppy sideways price range. And the horizontal support line that I have laid out right here is sitting at just underneath 19,000, and the horizontal line of resistance is sitting at around 22,000. And there's a lot of people out there who find a choppy sideways price range like this incredibly boring, especially the Bitcoin hodlers, because obviously if you're just hodling Bitcoin, you're not really gaining or losing anything in a sideways price range. And obviously if that's the strategy you want to take, that's perfectly fine. That's obviously up to you. But if you know that we're in a choppy sideways price range, and if you know the right strategies, there's actually ways to make a lot of money during a sideways price range. For example, everyone who watched this video that I posted just over 2 weeks ago, if you decided to implement the strategy that I covered in this video, which is titled Simple Method to Make Money Trading Crypto in a Bear Market, if you decided to implement that simple method that I covered in that video 2 weeks ago, once again, then you would have basically been printing money in this sideways price range so far. And while the daily Bitcoin RSI remains in this uptrend, forming higher lows and higher highs, then it remains very likely that the Bitcoin price is going to remain within this choppy sideways price range, or perhaps see some slight bullish price action above this resistance, similar to what we saw in the first quarter of this year, once again, based on that 3-day chart that I covered earlier. And when you're zooming into the 12-hour Bitcoin chart, obviously, as I covered in yesterday's video, the Bitcoin price reclaimed this previous level of support and actually reconfirmed it again as support with another successful retest here and a bounce. So if the Bitcoin price gets rejected from resistance and comes back down, then I would expect a lot of support around 20,000, which is where this upward trending line of support is currently sitting at, and anything lower than that, and we've got a lot of horizontal support at around 19,000. And as for our levels of resistance to pay attention to, obviously we have this horizontal level of resistance, which is sitting at just underneath 22,000 is where I have it on this chart. But as I warned about in my last video that I posted yesterday on the channel, in between the current Bitcoin price and that 22k level of resistance approximately, we do have another shorter term level of resistance on the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, which is that golden pocket. And as I mentioned yesterday, that golden pocket is coming into play at around 21.1k to 21.2k. And at the time of recording this video, the Bitcoin price is currently experiencing a small rejection from that level. And so basically, in order for the price of Bitcoin to actually make it up towards that 22k level of resistance, approximately pretty much these previous highs, then we first need to see a confirmed break above this golden pocket at around 21.1k to 21.2k once again. And other than that, something else to keep an eye on is what the short-term price oscillators are doing, specifically the RSI and the MACD. And right now, as of recording this video, these indicators are technically leaning more bullish than bearish, because the RSI on the 4-hour chart, for example, is still in a bullish trend in the shorter term, and the MACD is still sitting in the green with not really much decline in the histogram. But potential bearish indications to watch out for in these indicators, which we're not really seeing at the moment, but just watch out for them, is if we start to see a bit more of a decline in the histogram within the 4-hour Bitcoin MACD, because generally speaking, that means we're seeing a loss in bullish momentum, like what we saw back here, for example, or if we end up seeing the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI approach overbought territories, or more importantly, begin forming some lower highs and lower lows, then those will be some other indications on the chart telling us that the price is losing some of its bullish momentum and we're due for a bit more of a short-term pullback. But once again, as of recording this video, we're not really seeing those bearish indications, at least as of right now, but the RSI is getting close to overbought territories. And now getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this right here is the 3-day Ethereum chart. And once again, as I've been talking about over the past few days, we have already seen a confirmed bullish cross in the 3-day Ethereum MACD. In fact, when it comes to the 3-day Ethereum MACD, we've already seen 3 separate 3-day candle closes actually confirming this bullish cross now. And once again, the same rules apply here for Ethereum as what I said for Bitcoin on the 3-day Bitcoin chart earlier in this video. So essentially, based on this signal alone, but also based on other factors like the Fed and inflation, potentially over the next 1 month or so, talking about August most likely, we could have a little bit more breathing room to the upside for Ethereum and Bitcoin. But simply based on the fact that we haven't yet confirmed a larger uptrend here on the 3-day Ethereum chart. So technically speaking, we're still within this larger downtrend. Based on that, just like what I said earlier for Bitcoin, I wouldn't exactly be expecting explosive bullish price action like what we saw towards the second half of last year, and instead something more similar to what we saw perhaps in the first quarter of this year. And when you're zooming into the daily Ethereum chart, looking at the daily Ethereum RSI, the current trend in the daily Ethereum RSI strongly backs up what I just said about the 3-day time frame, talking about that bullish signal. Because going back to this daily Ethereum chart, as we can see, the RSI on the daily time frame is obviously in an uptrend here. And the last time we saw a bullish trend in the daily Ethereum RSI of this magnitude, especially crossing into the top half of the RSI above that 50 level, that will take us all the way back towards the first quarter of this year. Once again, we saw a major uptrend forming in the daily Ethereum RSI, starting in the second half of January this year, taking us all the way into overbought territories towards the end of March, early April this year. And these sort of trends in the daily Ethereum RSI can prove to be extremely useful, and in most cases they're leading indicators, because oftentimes we begin a major downtrend in the daily Ethereum RSI even before the price action itself really begins a major downtrend. And the same can be said for bullish trends. Usually we see the RSI on the daily Ethereum chart flip more bullish before the price action itself starts flipping more bullish, similar to what we're seeing at the moment. But once again, considering the fact that we're still in a larger downtrend here, technically speaking, when I'm talking about bullish price action, I'm mostly referring to what we saw in the first quarter of this year, which wasn't exactly explosive bullish price action, but overall it still was, relatively speaking, a bullish trend just in that first quarter. And once again, keep in mind that during the first quarter of this year, we certainly did not only experience bullish price action, we did have some shorter term bearish price action that was much more visible on smaller timeframes, such as the 4-hour chart, for example. So obviously, even though the price might be looking more bullish moving forward, especially over the next 1 month approximately, based on these indicators, we can still experience short-term pullbacks along the way, just like how in a downtrend, we can experience some shorter-term bullish price action along the way. And now zooming into the 12-hour Ethereum chart, and what we can see here is the fact that Ethereum has broken back above this ascending line of support as of recording this video, which is currently coming into play at around 1170. But what we also have is a strong horizontal level of resistance sitting at around 1270 to 1280, which I've been talking about for weeks now. And in fact, when you zoom into the smaller timeframes, such as the 4-hour chart, for example, you can see as of recording this video, the price of Ethereum is currently seeing a small rejection from pretty much this exact level of resistance. And Ethereum, just on the 4-hour time frame, does actually have one warning signal to pay attention to in the short term, which is the fact that the 4-hour Ethereum RSI reached into overbought territories. And of course, this happening at the same time as the price action approaching a strong level of resistance is pretty much exactly like what we saw roughly around 1 week ago. And of course, what came next over the next few days was more of a pullback in the price of Ethereum. So this is just a warning signal to keep in mind. But with that being said, we also need to see some more bearish confluence to become more confident in the bearish scenario playing out in the short term. And the bearish confluence or confirmations that I'm talking about here is if the 4-hour Ethereum RSI starts forming some lower lows and lower highs like what we saw just here, or if we start to see the histogram within the 4-hour Ethereum MACD begin declining towards that 0 level. Those will be the extra confirmations that I'll be watching out for in these indicators to potentially further confirm a bit more of a bearish scenario in the shorter term for Ethereum just on the 4-hour chart. But let's just say I personally would not be entering a leverage long position, for example, at this level of resistance without seeing a confirmed breakout, and while the RSI is pretty much at overbought territories, because blindly entering into a leverage long position when we're seeing signals like this on the chart can be extremely risky. And also something else that I've been talking about over the past 2 days here on this channel is the fact that a lot of this bullish move that we've seen for Ethereum has been caused by an Ethereum short squeeze over on the Bitfinex exchange. As you can see, there were a lot of Ethereum short positions opened up pretty much immediately after we got that new CPI data just a few days ago. And by the way, this right here is the 1-hour chart showing the amount of Ethereum in short positions on the Bitfinex exchange. But anyway, after seeing a massive spike in short positions, which are betting on the price going down, we then began to see an immediate squeeze in some of these positions. And then since then, over the past 2 days or so, we've continued to see more Ethereum short positions get squeezed out of the market, which will most likely actually these short positions that opened back up a few days ago. But if you're looking at the current level these short positions are sitting at, we're actually pretty close to the same sort of level at the beginning of all of these short positions opening back up, which basically means the majority of these short positions have already been squeezed out of the market. So a lot of that bullish pressure has already been applied. So this is just another short-term warning signal for the price of Ethereum, because once again, while we see this happening, that is providing bullish pressure on the price of Ethereum, but because the Ethereum shorts are now back down towards the same sort of levels as the beginning of all of this short squeeze, it means that there might not be too much bullish pressure coming from the closing of these positions, at the same time as the price of Ethereum running into heavy resistance and the RSI reaching overbought territories. So when it comes to the immediate short term, talking about hours and days, personally, I'll be a little bit more on the cautious side when it comes to Ethereum's immediate short-term price action. But like I said just earlier, ideally it would be better to see more bearish confirmation signals in these indicators to actually have more confidence in a potential pullback for the price of Ethereum. And if you want to know how to maximize your profits in crypto, whether or not the price is going up, down, or chopping around sideways, then check out one of these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make money if the price is going up or down, and the video in the bottom left is that video I talked about earlier, which reveals a simple method to make money in choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.